What should Zelensky, if anything, be prepared to give up to end this war?
He should be prepared to make a deal.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has seemingly turned American foreign policy upside down. He shows respect to the Turkish president, who is fighting Washington's allies, the Kurds, and at the same time he shows disdain for the leadership of Ukraine, which is usually considered America's ally in the fight against Russia. What does this mean in practice? Donald Trump is clearly enjoying his intermediate position when he is still an unofficial figure and can afford to talk more than the head of state, but already has almost the same access to information as the current president. Government briefings, Pentagon reports, CIA reports. The outgoing administration shares all this with the incoming one so that the transition of power becomes smooth. Only in the area of foreign policy can the changes still be abrupt. Of what Trump said at the press conference in Florida, two statements are of interest, about Ukraine and about Syria. More precisely, about Volodymyr Zelensky and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Let's start with Erdogan, whom the president-elect called a smart guy and very tough. Trump, in fact, became the first major world leader to directly state Turkey is behind the offensive from Idlib and the takeover of Damascus. They wanted this for many years, and Erdogan got it. It's okay. It's another way to fight. I know the people who came in are controlled by Turkey. Turkey will hold the keys to Syria, Trump said. Trump doesn't seem to care what's going on in Syria. This contrasts with the turmoil that his fellow Republicans are immersed in. Earlier, the conservatives' flagship newspaper, The Wall Street Journal, claimed that Turkey was preparing a full-scale offensive against the Syrian Kurds, the U.S.'s allies in the region. In this regard, some senators have already called for sanctions against Ankara, but at least until Inauguration Day on January 20th. The Kurdish problem is not Trump's problem. He has long been a supporter of non-intervention in the Syrian conflict and does not want to quarrel with Erdogan. Perhaps Trump will even be grateful to him if the Turkish president completely suppresses the Kurds in the next month. All this can be blamed on the outgoing administration of Joe Biden, and for the new administration, one less problem. The conflict around Ukraine captivates Trump much more, and this is a big problem for Volodymyr Zelensky. Unlike Erdogan, the future U.S. president is not afraid to offend him at all. On the contrary, he deliberately tries to do so, as if out of revenge for past grievances. Trump has at least 3 of them against Zelensky. He did not help with dirt on the Biden family. He criticized Trump's position on the conflict in Ukraine, and he participated in Kamala Harris' election campaign in Pennsylvania. At Trump's press conference, everyone learned that he did not invite Zelensky to his inauguration. But he can come if he wants, the politician added, as if good-naturedly, but in fact mockingly. Before that, Kyiv had already managed to fantasize about the emergence of a special Notre Dame format. Zelensky, Trump, and French President Emmanuel Macron. The format has already gathered in Paris. Macron then asked Trump to spend half an hour with Zelensky, although he refused. And on January 20th, it will allegedly gather in Washington, where it will decide everything in favor of Ukraine. Maybe he will, of course, but apparently without Zelensky and hardly in favor of Ukraine. Trump also made it clear that he intends to revoke Biden's permission for Kyiv to strike long-range American missiles on Russian territory, which he considers stupid. From this, among other things, it follows that the number of strikes by long-range American missiles on Russian territory may increase sharply before January 20th. The people who occupy the leadership in Kyiv have repeatedly given reason to doubt their adequacy, so they may decide to have a blast before Trump forbids it. Trump himself has other plans for Zelensky and co. He must be ready to sign an agreement with Russia. That's it, the president-elect snapped, as if he had already decided everything about Ukraine. This demonstratively dismissive attitude is eating away at the Ukrainian leadership like acid if the Ukrainian elites, including the military, understand that Zelensky, firstly, no longer enjoys the patronage of the United States, and secondly, is unable to ensure the influx of American money and other resources. This will prompt them to replace him with anyone who does and is able. U.S. support is critical for Ukraine, so the lack of U.S. support is fatal for its leadership. Another question is whether this is fatal for the Ukrainian project as a U.S. instrument in the fight against Russia. Former Washington ambassador to Kyiv John Herbst expressed the opinion on one of the Ukrainian radio stations that Trump wants to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, so he will postpone the issue of Ukraine's accession to NATO and is ready to decisively advance the formula of compromise in exchange for territory. That is what the Ukrainian leadership was so afraid of. At the same time, as Herbst points out, part of the future administration believes that if Russia takes control of Ukraine, then for Trump's reputation, it will be worse than the withdrawal from Afghanistan for Biden. But there are other people on his team who say and think completely different things. And they are very loud, he added. We apparently know these people. At a minimum, this is the future U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. It is not a fact that their position will prevail in the White House, but it was previously believed that such a position does not and cannot exist. Official representatives of Kyiv and the European Union have repeatedly convinced everyone that a complete U.S. withdrawal from Ukraine in favor of Russia is an unthinkable scenario. Now, it turns out, it is conceivable.